Auburn still looking for their 2026 quarterback, but there's a good one coming on campus this weekend.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We're talking recruiting on this Monday edition of the show with Brian Smith. He hosts the portal. That is Locked On's Recruiting NIL Transfer Portal podcast. Be sure to check that out. Brian, it is a loaded weekend this upcoming weekend with more official visits. We got the weekend off. We're back at it this week. But before the weekend started, last week, Grayson quarterback Travis Burgess, we said it was down to North Carolina and Auburn, and depending on who you talked to, was which school was trending. Well, he commits to North Carolina, and so then all the focus you'd have to think from the Auburn point of view when it comes to quarterbacks in the 2026 class, Landon Duckworth, the quarterback from Jackson, Alabama. There's a lot of, I think, pretty big programs that want his services. He's taking an official visit to Auburn this weekend.
This is a random situation. I did not see that one coming because I spoke to Travis last Sunday.
Yeah.
I got zero sense that he was ready to make a decision. He had a lot of really good things to say about Auburn, but as I like to say, that's recruiting. Landon Duckworth, come on down. Ole Miss, Florida State. At one point, I think North Carolina was trying to get involved in some others, but South Carolina is kind of the team to watch too. They were the team that he committed to as a sophomore. It's random. I don't think Florida State has much of a shot. They're trying, but I don't think the Noles have much of a shot. It'll be South Carolina, Auburn, or Ole Miss. So I'm curious to see how much
those. I know it's impossible. I know
Ole
it's
Miss
impossible.
is where I would put it.
It's
the top.
one.
He really likes. Then the other two,
You think it's so close? 2A, 2B. Okay.
Yeah, it's
okay.
6 one way, half dozen the other.
And you have Ole Miss first because, one, they have the last OV, which I always think gives anybody an advantage, especially coaches that are kind of known for personality and recruiting. Lane Kiffin falls into that category, especially when it comes to quarterbacks. Is it just him wanting to play quarterback for Lane? Does he like Ole Miss, like as a campus? Like what have you heard as far as Landon Duckworth liking Ole Miss?
He gets along with the staff. That's from him telling me that to my face. So
there you go. That's pretty big.
A relationship. So this weekend for Auburn is, I don't want to call it catch up, but it's like, do I feel comfortable with them enough to pull them ahead of Ole Miss? That's just a checkbox that he's got to figure out.
Yeah.
I mean, Auburn staff does a really good job with that kind of stuff, but Ole Miss is a pretty good staff with that as well.
Yeah, and we heard it's still so early in this official visit process, and the calendar's different, so we're still trying to learn the pacing and like what realistic timelines are. I want to talk to you more about that towards the end of the show, Brian, but originally he was supposed to take an OV to Auburn a few weeks ago, May 16th. He rescheduled it to May 30th, obviously, and that's when he was supposed to go to Georgia. I'm assuming he's just not taking one to Georgia because of that.
They're done.
Yeah. So, and then we talked about, okay, well, he's going to come the same weekend as Travis Burgess. And so now that dynamic is, totally different now that Burgess is, expected to be a Tar Heel as we record this. So if you're Auburn, do you push all your chips to the table and say, hey, we have to get Landon Duckworth? Or do you say, hey, like, we're going to swing for the fences and we hope you come here. And if you don't, like, we may get, a guy who might be a filler in the class? Or do you pivot? Because like last year at this time, we were all in on, I'm blanking on the guy who went to Colorado.
Oh, yeah, Juju Lewis.
Yeah, Juju Lewis. And then it's like, okay, that didn't work. And then they pivoted to Deuce, and it's like, wait, Deuce is an option here? Because at this time a year ago, we were like, Deuce Knight, like that would have been crazy. That would have been a pipe dream. So do you think they pivot if they don't feel like they can get Landon Duckworth? Or I don't even know how to ask this question because it's such an interesting situation.
Well, they've already had conversations with Jaden O'Neal, the kid that's committed to Oklahoma. I'm sure you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
He's an interesting story. I've seen him a few times. He's a big kid. He can run a little bit, but he's not the same kind of athlete that Deuce or Landon is. He's more of a pocket guy that'll move the pocket and throw, which I didn't really think that's what Auburn wanted, but what do I know? Big kid, 6'4", 200 plus pounds. He's committed to OU, but
yeah,
I don't think that's where he's going to end up. Florida State or Auburn is more likely, in my opinion. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. So an interesting spot there. So Landon Duckworth is going to be a guy that we talk about a lot this week as far as an official visits go, but a ton of dudes here. The highest rated one is Jireh Edwards, St. Francis Academy. It's not an OV or a big recruiting weekend in Auburn without a St. Francis Academy stud coming from Baltimore, Maryland to the Plains. Jireh Edwards, one of the best safeties in this class. I'm sure some places have him listed as the top safety in this class. What do you know about Jireh Edwards? What are you thinking there?
I think he's one of the top 3 safeties in the country, first off.
Sure.
And trying to figure out his recruitment, I wouldn't want to touch picking that because he's visited so many places so many times.
Right.
At some point, though, I've seen him at Auburn at least twice off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
How many visits are you going to take before you make a decision? Like, what is this legitimately? What is holding him back from not making that commitment? Because the biggest deal for a kid from Baltimore, that's a long way, is distance, but you keep making the trip, so it can't be that hard for you.
Well, I mean, I would guess Alabama, Georgia, Texas A&M, Oregon, all schools with deep pockets, very interested in his services. I would guess that's what's holding him back.
I'm sure Maryland's still trying too, and they got some pretty deep pockets as well. They got really good NIL, but I guess I know
that's
Alabama's,
Under Armour money, right?
The guy that runs Under Armour is a Maryland grad, and that's pretty much what Phil Knight is at Oregon. It's the same kind of deal. So
yeah, I get it. Yeah, so I mean, Jireh Edwards, Landon Duckworth, according to 247, those are the 2 highest rated players in town this weekend. There are several other guys, linebackers and edge rushers. That's going to kind of be a theme. It was a theme last week. It's going to be a theme, or last official visit weekend, so 2 weekends ago. It'll be a theme this weekend. Let's jump into that next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. We've all been there where you check your bank account and there's way less in there than you were expected, and you inspect it and you say, oh my goodness, I can't believe I spent that much on, going to a ball game and just buying extra things or food delivery or maybe, extra trips to the grocery store, whatever it might be. Monarch Money wants to help you by being your personal CFO and giving you full visibility and control over your finances. They call it a complete financial command center, and it's exactly that. It's not just a budgeting app. You can also track your investments. Everything you would normally need 3 or 4 apps for, it's all in one place. Give you all the surprising insights, all in one convenience, easy collaboration if you want to, match it with a spouse if you're managing money with someone. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Brian Smith, host of The Portal, our guest on this Monday edition of the show. Jaquez Wilkes, linebacker / edge from Wadley. Different outlets have him listed at different positions, some linebacker, some edge. Hezekiah Harris, of course, the Auburn commit, the edge from Jemison. And then Jamarian Matthews, an Alabama commit. He is an edge from Gainesville, Georgia. All studs. All really, really good players playing similar positions. Wilkes might be a little bit smaller than the other guys, but you've got a reason for that. So your overall thoughts on Auburn continuing to pursue this type of player, this prototype of player, and then also just specifically these 3 guys. What do you see?
Well, let's start with Wilkes. That's a kid that is just a physical presence. Been around him a few times. He is intimidating. He's so strong. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Plays basketball. He's still thin in part because of that. I think he will be 250 or above by the time he's a junior in college. I think he'll outgrow linebacker. Maybe I'm wrong. He's probably going to have to starve himself not to be that guy. But if he grows into an edge rusher, worse things have happened.
Sure.
Auburn, I've heard, has made a move with him. We'll see if that's true. I don't know. What exactly that means, of course, the visit will probably tell the tale.
Yeah.
Hezekiah is the interesting one. Tennessee and some other programs still coming after him. I find that an interesting situation because you don't want to lose a guy in state that you've had committed forever, that you prioritized early. But it's the SEC. This kind of stuff happens.
Yeah, Hezekiah, it's interesting, committed to Auburn early, and, he was tweeting about Auburn all the time. Anytime there was a chance for him to be on campus, he was.
Yeah.
In April, this is according to 247 Sports, April 12th, unofficial to Tennessee. This weekend, or this past weekend, May 24th, according to 247, unofficial visit to Tennessee. And then he's got the last OV, takes the OV to Auburn this weekend. His next OV is at Florida, and then OV on January 20th to the Vols. Early on, we heard Florida pushing, and now it seems like it's Tennessee.
Wouldn't shock me. He's a North Alabama kid, and
Sure.
Tennessee needs pass rushers in this class. So you can't, politically, that would be a bad loss. It would be a bad loss. So
no, especially, and I think Hugh Freeze and the staff have put themselves in an interesting situation because they've touted the state, owning the state, getting these top 10 guys in the state. And the guys that they have, it's like they're having to hold on to them. And it could be, Brian, they just come out and maybe they win 6 of their first 7 or 8 games. All of a sudden, it's like, okay, everybody's re-solidifying themselves to Auburn. They could be kind of in wait and see mode and we'll kind of see what this third year brings. But it does feel different as far as this time a year ago, we were talking about dominating the state. And now that's not seemingly the case. Now, it seems like Alabama's got momentum with CD Morgan. Who knows what Tank Jones is thinking? Everybody's coming after Hezekiah Harris. It feels a little bit different. Predictions for Shadarius Tootle to flip, coming from, Wilt Fong. It just feels different, Brian.
I just think that everybody's making runs, man. And when Georgia calls somebody, they're going to probably take a visit if they want to. It's Georgia.
They've earned that, right? That's what winning championships does.
100%.
Yeah.
So can you withstand that run and still sign him? I don't know. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you get your chance. Tootle's coming on campus, just use him as an example, in a week or two. But right now, this is your chance with Harris. Same scenario. You want to knock that out before he takes a visit to UT or to UF or God knows where else.
Right.
So, 6'4.5", 6'5" pass rushers don't grow on trees. So you got to do everything you can in your state to keep those because, the other kid that they're trying to bring in this weekend for a visit, that's going to be a hard flip. Jamarian Matthews, he's committed to Bama. He's lived in the state of Alabama at some point, but he lives now in Gainesville, Georgia. They might be able to flip it, but
6'2", 240 for Jamarian Matthews, the Bama commit. Does that sound right to you?
He's in that variety. Yeah, he's not the tallest guy. He's just twitchy.
So do you think he's an edge, or is he more of a strong side end at the next level? What do you think?
Well, it depends on how much weight he gains, but he's a tweener right now, but he's just got a natural penchant for getting to the quarterback. So gotcha. I think anybody in question of being able to do that, people will sign them and let the chips fall where they may. That's kind of the new thing, especially with the scholarship limit going up to 105. You're going to see schools go up to 90, 95 players they take. D-line will be one of the spots they take extra guys. For sure.
Yeah. A few other Auburn commits expected to take OVs this weekend. Jamichael Garrett, J-Mike, the 4-star linebacker, and then Parker Pritchett, the interior offensive lineman from Columbus, Georgia.
Yeah, Pritchett, I knew he was going to end up at Auburn. I'm not sure that J-Michael will. He's now in Louisiana. We'll see what happens with that. I'm not sure how to figure that out. I don't know what all is going on there. Anthony Davis is coming, the kid from Grayson, the linebacker. He plays the same spot, basically. So are they going to take 2 of those kind of guys? They're almost identical in size. Maybe. We'll see. But that's why you have official visits.
Do you prefer one over the other? If Auburn were to lose J-Mike and get Anthony Davis, is that a net positive, a net negative, or is it pretty dang neutral in your mind?
Pretty neutral.
Yeah.
Pretty neutral. Just depends on who wants to be here, I guess. The kid I am excited about is Wilson Zaire. Obviously, he's got family that attended Auburn. And I like this standard above all else. Don't worry about the kid's ranking. Worry about who's offered and going after him. When Georgia and Alabama want offensive tackles, I want those offensive tackles.
Yeah, of course, that's Killian Zaire's younger brother.
Yep.
Took an unofficial a few weeks ago.
Yep.
And sounds like it went pretty well. You may have talked to him, maybe?
Yeah. Great kid. Great kid.
Yeah. The fact that Bama and Georgia they seem to be going after him pretty hard. What do you think? This doesn't seem like a guy who wants to drag it out, I guess.
No, he's a really sensible kid. He's a flat out Auburn fan, and he follows his brother and stuff. And that's, he said, look, I followed Auburn since my brother's been here. What other choice I really have? And I'm going to take my visits, but I like Auburn. So I think he's taken the visits out of doing his due diligence, which I fully support. But I'd be surprised if he didn't end up on the plains at the end of the day.
What do you know about these guys that are committed elsewhere coming in? Xavier
Larice,
safety from Melbourne, Florida, committed to Oregon. And then you've got another safety commit. He's Braylon Edwards is committed to SMU. Another safety. What do you know about those guys?
Well, Larice is a kid that you could play nickel, safety, or corner. He is just all-around athlete. Myself and John Garcia Jr. saw him South Florida. Like, he is a dude. And I don't care where you want to put. You put him on offense if you wanted, punt returner, whatever.
Just a football player.
Oh, 100%. He's really good. The Edwards kid plays for Duncanville, which, as far as public schools go, might be the best public school program in the United States. And it's Dallas area. They take on all comers and pretty much steamroll them for the most part. So just coming from there is a good part of what you're looking for. And he's a little underrated because he's a 5'10" kid. Could play nickel, maybe he plays corner, maybe he plays safety. But when in doubt, Duncanville kids, I'll be happy to take. Yeah,
his situation's interesting because he hasn't been committed that long. It's not like a guy who committed as a sophomore, a junior, and just. Okay, been committed 8 months. Now it's time to look elsewhere. He committed on the 4th, just a few weeks ago. And he's got an OV to Auburn, an OV to Utah, an OV to Wisconsin, and an OV to Arkansas. So the timing there is kind of, I don't know, it doesn't feel like that solid of a commitment to me just looking at that timeline.
Yeah, I would say it's not. SMU's the low-hanging fruit for a kid like that because he lives 20 minutes from SMU's campus. But
got it.
I don't know. I mean, if you're bringing him in, you want him. That's my guess. And establishing a pipeline in Dallas is not a bad idea, by the way. But Auburn needs at least one really good corner in this class, if not two, just like everybody else. Getting a kid from Duncanville is a good way to go.
You see him more as a corner than a safety?
He's not the biggest guy. It just depends on how they want to play and how they're going to use their safeties moving forward. I don't know if Auburn's going to adjust. They got some pretty good safeties in that last class. Wouldn't be surprised they tried him at nickel as well. It'll play out. You move guys around because of all the different packages you got to play on defense now. You're always chasing nickel and dime is almost your base. So
sure. So that's Braylon Edwards, the SMU commit corner safety. We'll see where he plays. And then Xavier Larice, the safety or just football player, I guess, committed to Oregon. So those are a few of the guys taking OVs. We'll talk about the rest of them throughout the week. It's going to be a loaded weekend for the Auburn Tigers. But where this is situated on this new timeline when it comes to the recruiting calendar, I still think it's interesting, Brian. And we had this conversation last week, but I want to continue it next right here on Locked On Auburn. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Make the portal your second listen. As soon as you're done with this, Brian's talking more recruiting, more transfer portal, more NIL over at the portal multiple times a day. The same way you're consuming this content, the portal is available in that same medium there. Audio, video, all the good stuff. So, Brian, when you look at the official visits, because it seems like everybody across the country, there's 2 or 3 more weekends after this throughout June where it's all OV heavy and then it goes dead in July. You did a podcast on the portal last week talking about, or maybe it was 10 days ago, about how there were mega OVs all throughout college football and shockingly few commits.
It really was.
Is that going to hold serve through this weekend?
I would assume that there'll be a little bit more. This weekend coming up, it's a lot of big visits, a lot of schools, like Auburn included, Georgia, schools all around the country have official visits. Just by the math, I would think so. Now, I had a few of my buddies tell me separately, the house settlement's not done, this and that. Some of these kids are probably waiting to see what happens. I said, well, here's the other side of that. Like, everybody knows a roundabout number what's going to happen, and that's going to be dictated to you anyway. It's not going to be much different from one school to the other. So I don't think that's the reason, but maybe just trying to play off some of the NIL stuff in general, because that wouldn't go into effect until July 1. So anything that happens before then, up until July 1, those deals that get done before that, they can't touch it. So I still think a lot of commitments right before the end of June will still transpire.
I was talking about this on Friday's show with Nathan King of Auburn Undercover. And he was referencing a thread on their board talking about, like, okay, when is it okay to panic? Like, when do we need to start being concerned about Auburn recruiting? And I think his answer is reasonable, and I think you'll agree. It's like, well, when the targets that Auburn's pursuing go elsewhere, it's not like they're missing on these guys. They did miss on Travis Burgess, but most of these guys that are coming in, like, they're still just taking visits. They're not, like, deciding yet. Now, when all those guys start deciding and you're, like, running out of, like, names and you're just, like, getting second or third on all these guys, then I think it's time to panic. But we're just not there yet. And we won't be there after this weekend either.
No, we won't be there like for quite a while. For whatever reason, the last couple of years, June 20th is like, you put the X on that date. Right around June 20th, the kids, most of them have taken 2, if not 3 visits by then. A lot of them get tired of the official visit process. It's long, it's painstaking, it's 48 hours on the go. They don't want to do it anymore. Some of them will cancel that last weekend and be done. Okay. Then the weekends after that, the next 2 weekends after, it's just commitment Armageddon.
Right.
So I don't think Auburn or anybody else, for that matter, that hasn't gotten that commitment in a while should really care. Because I was right before I came on the show, I was looking at this, and they're like, there's hardly been any, and I'm not picking on anybody. There's been a few commitments, but, no Georgia, Texas, USC, Auburn, Florida State, none of those kind of programs.
Yeah, no, it's slow across the board, which should give Auburn fans some comfort. It's not just an us thing. It's happening all throughout college football and, all throughout the SEC.
Yeah, so I'm like, well, we've got this next weekend coming up. My question is, and maybe it's Auburn because they've got another loaded visit week. Do teams start getting commitments, and is there somebody that charges that and gets like a 4 or 5? A couple of years ago, that was Florida.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, they had like a week. They got 8 commits in like 9 days or something. Those things happen once it gets rolling. Auburn's had a bunch of these kids that we just talked about. They've been to campus, most of them, prior to this upcoming weekend. So is it unrealistic to expect multiple commits? No. By the end of not this week, but next week, if Auburn doesn't have 1 or 2 kids committed, I would start to move my needle.
Okay. Because then you start asking questions of like, okay, what's the plan here? Like, who are we trying to get here?
I know some of the people around Auburn, they do a really good job. If they didn't, I'd throw them under the bus. Like, it shouldn't be that hard to sell Auburn. So I don't think we're going to get to that point. But again, most of these kids have been on campus several times. It's kind of like either you know or you don't at this point. It's how I would look at it. If I'm Freeze, like, what do we need to do to come to an accord here?
Yeah.
At some point, you got to make a final decision.
Right. Yeah. So we'll keep monitoring that situation moving forward. And we may know more this weekend. We said that going into the first OV weekend, 2 weekends ago, and we didn't really learn anything. So maybe we'll learn more this weekend. So what's the biggest topic on your show right now with the portal, as far as like whatever it could be pertaining to Auburn?
Well, with Auburn, they're in on everybody in the South. It just seems like they're in on everybody. Who do you lead for? Like, I've talked to a few different hosts on Kansas State and UCLA and all these different shows. Who are you leading for that you have coming in? When I ask hosts that, if I get pauses, I get nervous. So I'm going to ask you the same thing. You're in the know. Do you have a good feel, like looking at the last, like the May 16th weekend or the one coming up? If you had to pick 3 guys, you're like, Brian, these three guys will eventually end up in the Auburn Tigers boat.
Okay.
They're in
Well,
on
for this weekend, I feel good about Wilkes. I feel good about Anthony Davis.
Hope you should.
And I feel good about Zaire.
You definitely should.
And then just looking at the May 16th weekend to fully answer your question, I feel good about Bryce Perry Wright, the edge / defensive lineman out of Buford.
Good player.
I feel weirdly good about Jay Lamar, the running back out of Columbus County.
I mean, that's a Georgia, Florida State, Auburn, like that. The schools.
And I need Georgia to drop a bag for Derek Cooper, and then I'll feel really good about it. I feel good about Vodney Cleveland.
I've heard the same.
And I feel good about Deron Parks, the interior lineman.
Parks, I know Auburn's done a really good job with. Cleveland's the one that's interesting. They were up for him, lost a little momentum. Now they're gaining steam again.
Well, and all the predictions say Florida, but and he may commit to Florida. I just think when it's all said and done, I think Vodney Cleveland's a Tiger. That's just my gut.
I and I know I'm beating on a dead horse here. I don't think Billy's going to make it. And I know I'm not alone in that boat. Florida's easy as pie to sell. But
last time I looked, Florida had one commit. Have they gotten more?
They got one more, but I don't even know if 247 updated it among others, but they got to keep it Cleveland.
Yeah. But, so, I mean, that would be my answer. Is that an okay answer?
Well, I mean, that's better. Like a lot of the guys I spoke to, they're and I'm like, you guys are in trouble then.
Right.
If you don't know,
maybe I'm looking,
guys,
maybe I'm like looking at that through orange and blue glasses, and I don't know. I've whiffed on the recruits before, so haven't even offered flashbacks now. So
recruiting now is like I used to be really good with predictions, but with NIL,
there's so much you don't know.
Well, the kids don't know either because like a day before their decision, they'd made up their mind, and then the ante's changed by $125,000. That's a lot of money, bro. And sometimes it's even more than that. You can't fathom what it's like if you're a kid. You're happy if you got $100 in your pocket. Like you're thrilled.
Do you see the quote from the Arizona State player that it's like, yeah, I think you should come to Arizona State and take a few $100,000 less. It's worth it.
That is not an endorsement.
Whew. Weird flex, but okay. Way to go, Sun Devils. You made the playoff.
Yeah, that is a one-time only thing where Cam Scatterboo is going to be the greatest transfer portal guy of all time. Sure. What a great story. Sacramento.
Yeah, no, I think he's going to look good I think the Giants took him, right? He'll look good there. Whatever. It fits, I guess. We'll see who's blocking for him. Brian, that does it for today's show. How can people check out everything you've got going on, man?
Locked On the Portal, your daily recruiting podcast, everything you could possibly want and more, just like Locked On Auburn, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and everywhere you download your pods.
Yes, please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.